There's literally no reason to try. So there's a lady named Candy, and she was gonna help me. And she's super nice. And she was gonna help me a long time ago. And like with many people who say they're my friend, they have good intentions. Just like Krista at the Starbucks. Sure, she has good intentions when she says, yeah, come in here when people are doing that to you. Well, I can't just live in Starbucks. I can't just live in Safeway. I literally can't take care of myself. When I'm harmed, I need a friend or family member to help me to turn it in immediately. That's what I need. Not somebody who's going to stand there and me get talked over. Now, there's a way past it, and it is to write it down. Since I'm called mentally ill, I have to have a friend or family member verify the evidence, which is what I've been asking for from the start. I show you evidence of the assault, you help me turn it in. But over and over and over again, all of these people, over and over, I don't know how, I don't know how, I don't know how. I am tired of people using I don't know how as an excuse not to listen to how. When the same person says, I don't know how, over a dozen times, they are not going to try finding out how either. It's disheartening. It's dehumanizing. It downplays the abuse that the victim is going through. So we'll talk about Candace here a bit. Good intentioned. Very good intentioned. I tried telling her, before we get started, if you could take an hour to sit down with me, just like I had done with Nathan before we got started on getting the GoFundMe started and getting that card started. Nathan paid for that card. He paid the $20 for it. But I explained to him we can't have it sent to a P.O. box. They won't do that. He said, oh, okay, well, we'll do it this way. Have you thought of this? Have you thought of that? And then what about a P.O. box? Like, dude, I already told you a P.O. box isn't going to work. Oh, okay. So then he does this thing, and he's going to have it sent to his house, right? And it doesn't get sent to his house. Because he didn't have it sent to his house. He said he had it sent to a P.O. box. Well-intentioned. But I'd done that before. I had already tried, and I told him that. They won't send it to a P.O. box. It'll get sent back. They won't send it to a P.O. box. That was like 5 months ago. 4 months ago. And it cost me $10 against my credit, apparently, every single month. We sat down, we wrote all the stuff on some pieces of paper. He lost all the pieces of paper he had. Mine are all over the place. He was well-intentioned. Yesterday, for the first time, we tried to come together, but the thing is that from day one, I tried explaining to these people I have to turn in situations with the police. And then it's all, I don't know how. Well, guess what? I do. That's why it's important to listen to me. I do know how. I'm trying to tell you how, and you keep interrupting me telling you how. To tell me you don't know how. First, you have to listen to the victim, not talk over them. It's good when you're listening that you are listening. But when you interrupt to say something like, I don't know how, or you've this, that, and the other, and everything that I've tried, no, what you're doing is you're throwing in my face the things that we've done. And I say we because I did try those things with you. I did go. But there were things that you needed to understand before we went. I understand that life happens. Candy was going to take the time to listen, but she's got issues with her phone up in the mountains. So she got to go stand out in the cold, and she was sick. So she wasn't going out into the cold, and she wasn't going to be able to. So she wasn't able to call and listen. But she was making plans behind the scenes with her mom. Now, she hadn't taken the time to listen to what was going on yet. But she was talking to her mom who was going to help. And her mom told her all the stuff that I already knew. Stuff that I'd already tried to tell her. So her mom told her the route that we're supposed to take, and I'd already taken that route, and I explained that. I've already gone that route. I have to turn those people in. They have no incentive to do their jobs anymore. They're not going to do their jobs because they know I'm trying to turn them in. That's why we need to turn this stuff in. It's important to turn it in together. When you say, I don't know how, well, first of all, when I get that room in the library and you're going to come up and take a look at the evidence, look at it. When I'm trying to show you what's going on, please don't dismiss it. Harassment call after harassment call after harassment call. I'm not allowed to have a reaction to this. Now, what Martinez said, I've heard him say over and over and over again already. What he's intentionally neglecting is that we can still turn in the assaults that have happened. And that's what I needed help with all of the assaults with Wolnez. But I couldn't turn them in because of the safety issue with police. And yes, I have a whole list of people we're supposed to call. These people have to tell these people that I'm being harmed. And it does have to be recorded for our safety. That's the reason for taking in a friend or family member who's informed. So Candy, after talking to her mom, I was trying to fill her in on what was going on, and I'm already 10 steps ahead of her. I'm trying to fill her in on what's going on, and she's telling me stuff that I've already tried multiple times by myself, and I'm explaining to her I need someone to do it with me. All right? The reason that there's a safety issue is because I had to go into the cops by myself to begin with. It is unsafe for a homeless man to go to the cops alone. It gets us killed. We're supposed to go to a friend or family member when we're harmed. Now, I got her phone number and Nathan's phone number so I could contact them when something happened. But it was at night, and Candy goes to work early in the morning. And that fucking sucks, doesn't it? We've all had those days. I remember working in the bakery, having to be up at 2 o'clock in the morning. And only because I lived real close to the bakery. Another one, again and again and again and again and again and again. And you say there's nothing you can do about it. Well, you know what? What I'm doing here on YouTube is documenting that it's happening. That's why I'm trying to get you to see them. When I'm sending you stuff and it's not going through, When you say I'm looking at it, I'm looking at it, I'm looking at it. Well, I certainly hope so. See, that's the thing. At the very beginning, I explained to Candy who it needed to be turned into. I said, they're running me around in circles. Candy had all sorts of ideas. You know, when I started trying to tell her about my issues, the first thing she wanted to do was volunteer to fix it. And I tried to get her to understand, I need you to listen to the problems. It's not just one. We need to take inventory and prioritize. It's called triage. And I don't hate her at all. I don't hate any of them. But they're not becoming informed. What they're focusing on is housing, 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 and that's what she did. She kept on, every time I tried to explain something, for like 2 or 3 days after she was finally going to be able to take the time, she kept on interrupting me to say her mom said this, and her mom said that, and her mom said this, and her mom said that. Based on what, though? What information had Candy gotten by that point? Missed call after missed call. I needed them to take it seriously. When I was harmed and I messaged them, you know, they could have messaged me at their first convenience and helped to try to turn that in. But the issue with the police doing what they're doing, the solution for that is to speak up. Miranda got to see some of this abuse. She said at the beginning, she didn't help me turn it in because she was afraid of getting in trouble at work because she'd been talked to about my videos. There was one she wanted taken down. I didn't know which one, so I still haven't been able to take it down, and she knows that. Over and over and over again, restricted calls, and I'm supposed to remain calm through all of this. And if I don't do what other people want, they're going to throw me away like trash. I tried explaining that before we go in and walk into a trap where we're going to get talked over, I needed her to be aware of what was going on. By then, she'd gotten a hold of a guy named Micah, and she really wanted me to meet Micah, and this, that, and the other with Micah. And he was going to meet us down at What's His Bucket, but Micah talked over me the whole time I was on the phone. That's the thing about showing her the stuff I was trying to show her. It's so she could speak up. But she didn't. What she was going to do, since she hadn't been able to, because of a flood here in Tillamook, she wasn't able to make it into town. On her vacation, she wasn't able to make time. She was going to make some time after Thanksgiving, but she just apparently blew it off. And I had to remind her, please, would you take the time to listen? And she was gonna. But then, of course, that was the times that I was in that room up there and I was trying to show her. And she wanted to keep telling me her mom said, and Micah said. I heard Micah. I was on the phone with Micah. I recorded the call with Micah. See, they're just going to keep on doing this. See, that's the problem with having to post on YouTube. Nobody likes being on YouTube. Nobody likes to face the things that they did wrong. I admit to all of mine. Everybody wants to push housing. Nobody ever wants to focus on the abuse, and that's what needs to turn in. The abuse. When you say you don't know where to go, because I've already gone to all those places, but you know what? I get that. And you know what? The more times you say that, the more times I'm going to get aggravated. I'm aware that you don't know how. That's why I'm trying to tell you. I'm trying to get you to take the time to listen and look. The instructions for turning this shit in are pretty simple. They're just not simple in action. The things that the officer said that we're supposed to do. I can't do those things for myself. I've been explaining that from the start and showing people from the start. Now, when I was trying to tell Candace and Nathan during one of those situations, I was trying to explain to Nathan, hey, I got to try to explain to Candy one-on-one. And I didn't hint it. I stated it outright more than once. And he was like, oh, okay. And then he just kept on talking. I'm like, this is not one-on-one. I'm overwhelmed already with trying to explain it at that point. And it didn't happen again. That time that Candy was going to listen before making a bunch of decisions and running with them, you know, she did that with her mom, and I had to keep on trying to explain to her, I'm already past that. All right? We're doing what your mom wanted based on your questions, not based on my situation. You haven't heard my situation yet. And before you can help me, you have to hear my situation. When you are constantly telling me someone else said, or you have an idea, and you're just going to keep on pushing that idea, first of all, your mom is absolutely right. Just so you know that. She was 100% right. The problem here is that that's the first time around. Once they've already committed the crimes against someone, it is unsafe to go back to them, and the situations have to be turned in, and I did record them. I needed help turning that in, and I told you the procedures for that. I tried over and over again while I was talked over because you had a better idea. Well, I've got, I don't know how many calls from this number now. 7 years of it. And I'm told to go to my friends and family for help, and people tell me that they're my friends, and I go to them when I'm abused, and they say, I don't know what I can do. You can listen to my story, and you can help me to turn it in. I've got a bunch of electronic evidence without the ability to process it. Instead of saying that you'll process it for me in some way that doesn't involve me whatsoever, how about process it with me so that I can vouch for the fact that you did it, and you can vouch for the fact that I did it. But then when Candace does something messed up like that, you know, I just have to take it with a grain of salt. She didn't do it to be evil. She was pressed for time, and a lot of the 20 questions crap is often because people are pressed for time, and they're stressed out because they're pressed for time. The procedure for turning it in is pretty much the same, turning it in for a protection order. See, a police officer will talk over an oral report. They can't talk over a written report. All they can do is throw it away in the garbage, and if a friend or family member goes with you and you have a photocopy of it, you've got a witness and you've got evidence. And that's what I've been trying to explain. Yes, I've heard what the officers said. I've heard what all of these places and peoples have to say. Do I have the ability to do those things for myself? No. No, I don't. And all these people being super nice to me. It is super nice of them, isn't it? But is it stopping this abuse? Is it getting me a safe place? And by a safe place, I don't mean telling me to go through housing. See, before we can get into housing, there's going to be a waiting period. And during that waiting period, I am still taking the abuse. Help me turn in my abusers. All right? The abuse is already documented. Help me to process it and turn it in. When I'm showing you that stuff between me and Natalie Bollinger, you can vouch for the fact that I'm telling the truth. My predators use Natalie Bollinger's name and crimes that I never committed as fucking excuses for harming me. Candy has a family. I understand that. I have to understand that. But you know what? She has a family. I don't. I have relatives with a history of taking advantage of me. I have quote-unquote friends who are primarily just drug addicts who talk to me, and I have to try to be glad that somebody actually talked to me. But when it comes to abuse, the most important thing is to listen. The third time Candy was going to listen, she said that she would make the time to listen. 3 pieces of paper I needed to show her and sit down with and show her without her interrupting and explain. But she was called into work. Now, of course, you see how this is all not her fault. But still, she wasn't able to sit down one-on-one and listen. And so then, when we went and met the guy, I was explaining to her I didn't feel comfortable going until she'd taken the time to listen. And she said that she was wanting to go meet him anyway, because she didn't want to be rude. So I went there to meet him. When I met him, it was one of the people who I'd already had to go to and was trying to turn in. I have recordings of him literally talking over me, not giving a shit about the abuse. The cops refused. They pawned me onto mental health. Mental health pawned me back onto the cops. And right now I've got 2 restricted numbers calling me on 2 different phones. Not that Candy gives a shit. It's not happening to her. I literally told Candace how to do this 4 months ago. And what was her excuse today? I don't know how. No, you're not trying. We're only trying what you want, what your mom wants, what Micah wants. That's the thing about you not going in prepared. You were not prepared. I was. 5 minutes of planning is worth an hour of work. But that planning has to be based on factual evidence, not your assumptions, not your mom's assumptions. That's why it was important to listen before making decisions and before pushing decisions. And when you say you're going to listen and then it's last minute and you still haven't and we go in unprepared, then there's the court crap. Is any of that her fault? No, it's not. None of that's Candace's fault. She's been going to my court dates with me. But what she hasn't been doing is standing up for my rights. speaking up about what's happening or why it's important. And it's difficult because she still hasn't been able to take the time to stop and listen to why it's important. See, the more I try to get her to listen, the more distant she is, the more busy she is, the more she can't do anything, the more time goes by, and the more she just doesn't give a shit, it seems like. When are you going to hear my story? We're just doing a bunch of not hearing my story through any of it. So yesterday, after months and months and months of, yes, people are going to help, they're going to help, they're going to help. When? When? Everyone just wants to focus on housing. Housing will fix it. Oh, there's a trailer here. There's a parking lot over there. There's a this over here and a that over there. Am I able to go to those places? Am I able to do those things? Then, of course, there's all the people in the store that are actual witnesses. Witnesses that I went to them for help, and witnesses to the abuse that I've gone through. And I go to them to ask them for help because they were witnesses. And what do the cops say? They need witnesses and evidence. Duh, I have it. I can't turn it in alone. The problem for me isn't that I don't know who to turn it into. It's that I can't turn it in alone. So let's go over the situation yesterday. Literally nobody to this day has helped turn in the assaults by Juarez. Nobody. None of the witnesses have tried coming forward. Well, that's not entirely true, is it? Mona wrote something down. So did Paul. Miranda was going to, but she hasn't gotten around to it yet. And all of these other people that were witnesses, I tried telling them, hey, could you try telling Candy that? Like, I literally have to bring it up when both of them are together. And I have to do that in the safe way where it's inappropriate to even do so. And it is inappropriate to do so. All of your shit didn't work because you didn't listen to me before making plans. And you wanted to repeat over and over and over and over again your plans, and we're going along with that. When you repeat the same thing 6 times in a row, I already know you're going to absolutely not come off of it. So yes, I'm willing to try it with you. Now we met the guy. And instead of her getting to know him or tell him anything about what was going on, he wanted to go inside automatically. I wasn't okay with that. We got inside, and the first thing we had to deal with was people fucking talking over us. I'm being abused. All of these places that we're going to are saying it's not their job. It's nobody's job. I tried sending these people videos of the evidence. And time and date stamped. A lot of the evidence that I'm trying to show is on the internet. Candy can't do it because her account for her emails is through Safeway, so she can't use it. So I can't send her any emails. That's an impossibility there. So then I got to send it to Nathan, who may not see it for over a week because repeatedly he's not seen it for over a week. There's multiple times that Nathan was help, but he needed a mental health day. And then he got another job, so he's constantly busy there. And he means well, just like Candy means well. But their help is harmful. If Candy had been there yesterday instead of Nathan, she knew a little bit more about the situation than that. And she probably would have been better in that capacity. Now, obviously, Martinez called her up and told her about how blah, 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 blah in the future, blah, blah, blah. And that's the thing about continued abuse and there being a safety issue with the cops. Yes, she absolutely can turn that in with me, not for me. If you do it for me, you're not going to provide any evidence you made any effort. And I'm going to get treated like nobody ever made any effort. I'm sick and tired of people saying, I don't know how. If it was your son, your daughter, your brother, your uncle, your husband, your wife, you'd know exactly how. Or you'd find out. So what happened yesterday with Martinez? Well, after he'd already told Candy that I brought it on myself, that already shows the assumption of guilt. He's not going to do his fucking job. Now, if Candy had taken the time to help turn that in immediately, that would have helped. But she didn't. Instead, what she told me, just like when she talked to Lothman, she over and over and over again, just like when she said, my mama said, my mama said, my mom said. And then it was Micah said, Micah said, Micah said. And then it was Lothman said, Lothman said, Lothman said. Yeah, I know, you told me already. But you still haven't taken that time. We tried over the phone, but it becomes 20 questions. That's why I try to show you in person. But it's difficult to show you in person when you keep on interrupting me to say, Micah said, Micah said, Micah said. You're listening to Micah, not the victim. You're listening to your mom, not the victim. You're listening to Lothman, not the victim. You told me you called Lothman 4 times after he came in there, and you don't even know the fucking threats, harassment, and intimidation by those cops. You haven't taken the time yet. You're too busy, and I understand you're too busy. I have to understand you're too busy. When you're sick, I can see that you're sick. I can see that you're trying. So yesterday I was trying to explain to them that I'm being abused by this guy, and they already showed that they'd assumed my guilt. Saying it was a back and forth thing? No, it's not. It's a me speaking up in public and on my YouTube channel because nobody's helping me to turn it in. The cops aren't going to do their job without a friend or family member. Once those cops have already committed those crimes, it's a good thing I recorded them already. But I need help turning them in. Make the calls with me. There are a lot of calls that can be made in a day. When I was trying to explain about the situation with my stuff in the mountains and I needed to set up a time to go and do that, that was when Candy was going to help me. She was going to take the time. This was the 4th or 5th time she was going to take the time to one-on-one listen with me. And did she? No, her husband volunteered to go up the mountain, and they paid for all this, mind you. These are not people who are fucking demanding millions of dollars. They're not ripping me off like the homeless people are here. It's not like they're doing any of that horrible shit. Nathan and Joe and Candy went up the mountain with me to try to get a bag and some other stuff with evidence in it. They could see my camp. Joe wanted to volunteer right then and there, so we did. We drove all the way up to my camp and all the way back, and we were at camp. And I was kind of hoping that maybe I might be able to speak and explain what's going on this time. Meanwhile, this whole time I'm taking abuse. It's adding up because I'm taking this abuse daily. It is adding up. But I'm not able to speak about it because the right up there, I'm twice to get the focus on the abuse, on listening to me this time like we were gonna. But these are a lot of coworkers that all know each other, and of course they had conversations like coworkers do, and they were enjoying themselves, you know? They weren't doing nothing bad by doing that, but I really needed to be heard. I really, really needed to be heard by that point. Nathan had been real busy. Joe had said on more than one occasion, hey, Candace is the one you got to talk to about that. But I can't talk to her about it because she's super stressed out with work and people not showing up and everybody else being sick and her being sick. Nice storm and the flooding here. The hours of loss from work, plus she's taking time off of work to try to go to these appointments with me. But they were appointments that she wanted to set up. And the time that she was going to listen to me with the whole Micah situation. Like on the phone, we got to hear all that stuff out of Micah already. Stuff that I'd already heard repeatedly before. A friend or family member has to care to look at the evidence and find out who to turn it into and help turn it in. There's a lot of the tricks the cops use in order to prevent somebody who's broke from turning it in. They'll pull the wool over your eyes. See, the problem is that the safety issue with the police, all these people who have been recorded in here, you know, Christy doesn't like Martinez. She has no respect for him. Yeah, I recorded that. I recorded a lot of stuff because instead of understanding what I'm going through, people wanted to tell me how crooked it is and just ignore it. Oh, the cops here are crooked. Christy, what did she said last night? It was, I've noticed that the cops kind of pick and choose whether or not they investigate. Yeah, it's whether or not people care. Enough people at the Safeway do care that if they spoke up, it'd make a difference. Miranda would have done a much better job than Nathan, just because she had witnessed one of the assaults with her own two eyes. She had also been afraid at the time to turn it in with me. Then she was going to write it up and she was going to give it to Candy so that we could turn it in court, and we never got to do that. But the thing is, civil court is a far cry from criminal. These people do this out of malice. I do it out of necessity. Been like 4 or 5 months of Candace and Nathan constantly too busy, and when they do finally make time, we're not focusing on listening to my story. We're focusing on all of the assumptions that they've made, all of the stuff that they've thought about and thought, oh, well, you can do this and you can do that. I don't need you thinking about 1,000,001 things for me to do. There is a legal process for turning it in. And it starts with looking at the papers and writing it down. If you're called mentally ill, it means having a family member or a friend doing that, because they're never going to listen to me again in my life. We did what you wanted. We went to CARE over and over and over again. CARE said it's not their job. Why are we still pushing housing places? We are literally doing nothing to turn in the evidence of abuse that I'm showing you. That's the thing, is that I'm showing you that abuse for a reason. I'm showing you the evidence for a reason. I need help turning it in. I can't do it alone. There are lots of places to call. I gave you a whole list of places that we can write and call. When you say, I don't know how, well, I've been telling you how and you've been talking over it. You don't talk over it because you're some evil person who hates me. It's not like you've plotted and schemed this out your whole life. See, the court dates that I was railroaded in, the evidence of the abuse still exists. But the courts aren't going to listen to that unless a friend or family member listens to it. The courts aren't going to look at it unless a friend or family member looks at it. So, of course, none of the stuff that Candy wanted to do. And that's really what it comes down to. We were going to do it Candace's way. First, we were going to do it her mom's way. And she was going to keep on saying her mom, her mom, her mom. But she wasn't familiar with the situation or how easy it is to walk into a trap where nothing gets done and you're going around in circles. I tried explaining to her, hey, you need to look at this evidence of abuse that I'm enduring and understand that people are literally murdered over this shit every day. When they do finally look, I'm like, see, help me to speak up. Help me to not have to put it on fucking YouTube. Help me to turn it in safely. See, it's not Andrew Wolnez or the cops that push me to suicide. It's the people who say that they'll help, and then they won't make time unless we do it their way. And their way is misinformed. It lacks all of the important details that I'm trying to tell them that they keep interrupting. Now, how many times has this restricted number called me? Oh, this one's from Alabama. Yup. God bless America. Then there's all these other people. I explain, hey, you know what? You could speak up. You could. And there's so many people that want to push it all off on the Candy. I thought Candy was going to do this. You know, days after Candy realized the situation with Micah, I still had to deal with Nathan saying, well, Candy told me Micah said. Candy told me Micah said. I thought Micah was going to do that. I thought Micah was going to do that. So you literally missed our appointments because you were misinformed. You literally didn't keep your word because you assumed. You literally made plans without me because you assumed. I get that it's a lot. And I don't want to give anybody a seizure. And of course, I got to worry about that too, don't I? Yesterday, when the cop just wanted to say my name over and over and over again, Lori wrote about it. We can read this. Let's see. Do I have them? The ones that are blacked out. Yeah, I had to spend some money to make some photocopies today. Doesn't do much good, does it, when it's all blocked out like this, huh? It says, I, such and such, was sitting outside Safeway on my break talking to Scene when Andrew was walking down the alley towards the bank yelling, screaming, and cussing at Scene mean while Scene and I were having a conversation. And then it's got her contact information. See, these people don't do mean shit because they're evil. It's because they don't understand. But then again, when they're busy telling me what to do, what to think, and what to feel, busy making plans for me, busy telling me what I've already heard it. I already heard it. Okay, trying to tell you my experience. And I end up hearing everybody else's experience. Here's another one. Let's see if I have a version of this that's bleeped out. No, I'll just have to hold it over the name. It says, on January 24th, 2024, such and such bared witness to an interaction between Mr. Schultz, it's actually Schwartz, and officers Fitzgerald and Martinez in front of Safeway at approximately 10:20 a.m. on the above-mentioned day. Officer Fitzgerald arrived to speak with Sean regarding an incident that had happened the previous night. Dialogue was easy between the two until approximately 10:40 a.m. when Officer Martinez arrived. We'll read the backside too. Sean was still speaking to Officer Fitzgerald when Officer Martinez decided to interject over the top of the conversation. Both Sean and Officer Fitzgerald were frustrated regarding this. Officer Martinez then started talking over Sean and loudly repeated his name until Sean became so frustrated he walked away. Officers Martinez and Fitzgerald then turned the conversation to Nathan, who was intermediary. At 10:50, the conversation ended. Yep. Let's see how many missed calls I got. Let's see. 7 from Alabama and 32 from Illinois. That's easier to do than the restricted numbers, isn't it? See, the safe way to do it would be to give me a reason to trust you by not talking over me. By not getting all defensive like I'm saying you're a horrible person when I say that you've done something harmful. Something I was trying to avoid and something we could have easily avoided if you'd have listened to begin with. But then, of course, I'm trying the things these people are telling me to. I'm going the places these people are telling me to until I'm no longer capable of going to those places. But the thing is, the witnesses to these things telling me they don't know how, they don't know how, they don't know how. Well, you know what? My predators find out how. They figure it out because they're highly motivated. Whereas you get an idea in your head and you're going to just say it over and over again. When they helped me up in the mountains, I was glad for that help, and we got some of my stuff down the mountains. When Paul helped me to move my stuff in storage, I was glad for that help. When Joe and Candy helped me to move my stuff in storage, I was glad for that help, and Candy got to look at some evidence there. Evidence that, matter of fact, shows that I told the truth and that the cops in Colorado lied. See, that's the thing about showing the evidence. You say you don't know how. Well, I do. I do know how. It starts with making calls together. I already have lists and lists of places. But all these folks who want to say, oh, well, I'll make calls on my own and I'll tell you what somebody else says. Well, that doesn't give me any proof that it happened. And then I get treated like I'm a liar unless you come forward. And when are you going to come forward? See, here's the thing. I let Candy know that what she's doing is literally what pushes people to commit suicide. Her and Nathan going out of their way to not take the time to listen. Instead, they want to get defensive or say, I don't know how, I don't know how. Well, I'm telling you how. The first thing you need to do is know the victim's story. Next thing you need to do is help them turn it in. If the cops won't listen to them, you write it down. You send it to the places that it needs to go. You make sure that the victim doesn't have to put their name on it alone. When you help the victim with something, you have to admit that you fucking helped them. And I have to try to talk to these people on their break, where I'm super rushed. And anything that I say, they may not take the time to actually listen to the situation for 2 to 3 weeks. But they've been thinking about a fantasy version of it for 2 to 3 weeks. So they got 10,000 questions about a situation that they know nothing about, but they've been thinking about for a while. Then there's the fact that they got to worry about their own health, physical and mental. They got to worry about their own families. Lori was sort of right. See, Fitzgerald, well, he was still talking over me. And I was hoping that Nathan would be able to speak up and say, hey, you need to listen to him. Instead, Fitzgerald sold his own narrative over the top of it. I was not comfortable with the situation, but I was trying my best. And at least Nathan was there to be a witness, and Lori was there to be a witness. But, of course, I could hear everything being said. And when he started telling me what it is that the officer said, yeah, I know. I've heard it already. I've heard it already. I already heard it. Dude, I've been here the whole time. I've heard it. I have heard it, Nathan. But he wanted to make sure over and over again that he repeated what the cop said. Yes, I heard him the first time, Nathan. The stuff I asked for your help with to begin with is exactly that, and it was an argument of what Candace said. Candace said, her mom said, Micah said. The cops said, yeah, I'm well aware. And all of these people who know Officer Martinez, you know, a lot of the people at Safeway know what a dick he is. I've got recording after recording of people talking about it. And all these people saying, oh, well, you know, it's horrible they're doing that. They're not allowed to do that. They're not allowed to do that. You know, they shouldn't be allowed to just ignore you by calling you mentally ill. They shouldn't be allowed to just make up any narrative they want. Well, that's what happens when you make them go in alone. I'm not asking you to do it for me. I'm asking you to do it with me. I'm not asking you to sell your narrative. I'm not asking you to believe my narrative without looking at evidence, but I am certainly going to have a problem with you literally believing anybody but me, just based on their words. I already heard them. You already heard them. We've both heard them, but you've not heard me. It needs to be turned into the FBI and a lot of other agencies. There's a lot of different options of people to go to, but you cannot make me do it alone. And if your excuse for not trying is that you don't know how, it's because you have not heard a thing I've said. You've decided that your solutions are going to fix it. To the point that I am afraid to ask for help from you anymore. I am afraid that you are going to be dismissive and talk over me and throw in my face the stuff in storage that you helped with and the stuff in the mountains that you helped with. In those situations, it was important to take a triage situation, to listen to the victim. Now, when it's more than one person, I understand that that's real difficult to do. You know, it's fucking horrible to interrupt somebody to tell them you don't know how. I guarantee you, if Wolnez was stalking her daughter, she'd know exactly fucking how. Then there's Cynthia. Cynthia wanted to put a stop to it. She tried getting it to stop nicely. But literally all those women say Andrew deserves to get his ass whooped. And I say, I'm not trying to whoop his ass or get anybody to whoop his ass. I'm trying to turn him in. Oh, now we got one from Texas. Goddamn, aren't these fun? See, that's the thing, is that none of your ideas work because none of your ideas have anything to do with my story. Your ideas don't have anything to do with my evidence. That's why I'm trying to get you to look at evidence instead of make plans for me and send me around in circles just like everyone else. I'm asking to be heard. More important than knowing how to turn it in is knowing what's going on. That requires listening to the victim, actually making the time to listen when you say you'll listen, not talk over them, not give them temporary Band-Aid solutions, and then ignoring them over and over and over again while they're being victimized. See, that's the problem there. You leave a man no option but suicide. You literally leave him no alternative to end the abuse except to end his own life. How dare he curse? How dare he raise his voice? How dare he ask you to take it seriously? But everybody's got this housing idea. Housing. We'll all ignore the abuse and focus on housing. Yesterday I just got talked over. The cops wanted to throw in my face the bullshit with Lothman. Now, has anybody helped me to turn in Lothman? No. Has anyone tried? No. See, here's the things for the civil trial and any other trial, any other court date. The evidence needs to get fucking seen. Which means that when you go in with someone, you need to tell their fucking public pretender that their life is at risk. You have to let them know that. Don't tell me my life is at risk and tell no one else. Meanwhile, all these people who are witnesses to this shit, who made promises that they were gonna, and after the fact, they're like, oh, I thought Candy was gonna do it. Really? The Candy who's got to go get stressed out with her family over Thanksgiving, but she was going to find time after Thanksgiving, but didn't. But then she was going to make time after Christmas. Still hasn't. But she has gone to my court dates. She has gone to my court dates. The stuff that she's asking for now is stuff I already showed her. I already sent it to Nathan, who's got his own issues with being able to see it, which are not my fault. Is he telling Candy he's got those problems? Is he writing it down so I'm not treated like I'm a liar? No. See, the most important part was to listen before they got everything jumbled up in their heads from not taking the time to listen appropriately. When someone is being victimized, you don't talk over them for any fucking reason. The more you talk over them, the more impossible it's going to be for them to speak. When I'm angry, I'm not close to hurting other people. When I'm angry, I'm close to ending my own life. No one else's. The way those police treated me yesterday was fucking gross. And I'm supposed to turn it in immediately. And yes, there's a whole bunch of people to turn it into. There's all sorts of people we can turn it into. A whole list of people we can turn it into. I know I've called them over and over again, only to be dismissed because it's just me. We can make phone calls to all sorts of different places. I've got lists and lists and lists. But if you make me make the phone calls myself, nothing will happen. How can I believe you're going to help get my voice heard when you won't even hear my voice? By not helping me to get heard, by talking over me every fucking time. You don't know how to do this. You don't know how to do that. You don't know how to fucking listen either. We're not having a conversation. I'm being victimized. I need you to fucking listen. We've already gone over who it needs to be turned into, but you've made zero time for that. You've made only time to do what you want, what your mother wants, what Micah wants. What we're not doing is stopping the abuse. That's what we're not doing here. We're not stopping the abuse. And it's costing me everything. Everything. To believe people who are literally never going to follow through with even listening before making decisions for me. How about make decisions with me? Informed decisions. Repeating to me what my fucking predators said is not help. I already heard it. I already heard the first 30 times you said it to interrupt me. We did what you wanted. what you decided with your mother that you were going to do without hearing the facts or looking at the evidence. And that happened repeatedly, not just with your mother. When you wanted to go meet Micah, just so you weren't being rude. I don't give a shit about rude people are dead. When somebody says they don't know how, it's kind of like when they say they're sorry. They're never going to help you. They're going to talk over you and dismiss you and say, have you gone here? Have you gone there? Well, I don't know how. I don't know how. I don't know how. You absolutely know how. People are hurting me, and you're just going to talk over me to say you don't know how to turn it in. You don't know how. Well, it'd be a lot easier to turn it in if you knew what was going on, wouldn't it? It'd be a lot easier to know what's going on if you weren't busy interrupting to say you don't know how. I've explained to you how. First, you listen to the victim tell their story. Sure, you have questions, but let them tell their story. And then, if you're still not satisfied, that's when you ask. How do you turn it in? Well, you write it down. The evidence that I've been sending to people. I've been sending it to cops this whole time. Yes, I probably could have tried, but it doesn't work. And I have proof of why it doesn't work. If you don't turn it in with a friend or family member, they pretend it doesn't exist. You never tried. When your friends or family members want you to just assume that they're telling the truth when they claim that they did something, well, the courts aren't just assuming, are they? And you're not coming forward with it, are you? You're not writing it down, are you? If you do write it down, you write as little as possible. I could write novels on this. I literally have. I have written volumes and volumes and volumes, but the problem is nobody ever takes a look. And in the amount of time it takes for them to keep their word, everything's destroyed. Krista was never going to give a shit how much I'm harmed. None of them give a fuck about me. Candy, well, she tried, but her problems, her issues prevented it, not mine. All the crap her mom wanted to talk about, yeah, the first time around, she's right. But I'd already been through it once around, and we needed to make sure that we guaranteed that wasn't going to happen again. Guarantee that I wasn't going to be talked over and dismissed and have an officer sell a false fucking narrative over the top of me. Write it down. That's the thing with Nathan. He gets all excited and he wants to tell me stories about him. And I'm fine with hearing stories about him. But let's make hangout time for that. It's not appropriate to do that when we need to be focusing on stopping abuse, on finding out what is happening to the victim and how these predators are getting away. Well, it starts with your friends and family members always being too busy. Over and over and over again. Over and over and over again. Oh, here's another one. See, that's the thing that Candy doesn't give a shit about. She's not the one going through this. She's also not the one that she fucked over by assuming. and running with her assumptions instead of listening to the victim. See, all the stuff that she wanted to do, when I try to tell her how hurtful it is, she's too busy getting defensive to listen to the damage that it fucking caused for me. When are you going to make time again? Because in the time that it took you to make all those bad decisions, people have continued to harm me repeatedly. Not because I haven't tried to say anything, but because everybody thinks they know better than the retard. I'm tired of being treated like a retard. Well, 29 of them from Texas so far. 29 calls from Texas, and as soon as I report the spam, they'll just make another one. Well, let's answer the son of a bitch. Hello? 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 So what do we do? I'm not allowed to have an emotional reaction to people literally talking over me about, am I going to fucking get hurt? No, I'm stuck listening to their assumptions. Their assumptions. Based on what? I don't know. They're not listening to me. Micah said. Yeah, Micah talked over me. Everyone talks over me. You have to tell them that these things are fucking happening. If I tell them, I'll get dismissed. Meanwhile, you're just going to dismiss me? When are you ever going to speak up? In order to get it into court, I have to have a friend or family member look at the evidence that I'm already showing y'all. But you're not bringing it up. You're not writing anything down. You're certainly not doing any of that with me. It's pretty much the same shit as when you try to get a protection order. It's paperwork. Restricted call after restricted call. Gotta love it, right? Fuck this goddamn country and everyone in it. Candace just signed my death warrant.